going live, or, okay, present to everyone. There we go. I think these are the slides that we probably want.
Yep. Thank you, Emily.
Well, if the laptop hadn't forgotten how to use the anyway,
It's okay, I can fix that.
So we get something called an A-render, A-R-A-N-D-R. X-render is what you typically use for talking to additional displays on the computer. But use X-render, you have to memorize a bunch of really long console commands. If you just want your slides to show up, and you don't want to memorize a bunch of implementations, install X-render computer again, and basically pretty little graphics and screens that you can drive around. Go, one.
Was that recorded?
Yes.
Probably, actually.
We'll say it again.
There we go.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So welcome to lesson 3. Hey, welcome to lesson 3 of DevOps Bootcamp. Today we are going to start off by talking about editors and version control. Actually, we're not going to start off with the entire thing. So we're going to start off though by talking about editors. And by editors, we just mean text editors. So you've already used text editors if you use Word or something like that. Word is not what you're going to be using to edit text. We need to make that very clear right now. Don't use Word to edit your text. Don't use LibreOffice if you anything like it. There are very specific reasons, and we'll go into those in a bit.
So we kind of already went over last week. Any last chance questions? No? Okay.
That's it. You don't have any other chance.
So this week you want to make sure you have Emacs, Vim, and Git installed on your machine. So sudo, I forgot the yum.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
So if you have a Vagrant box or a Vagrant machine on your computer, you should Vagrant up and log in. And what you're going to want to run is sudo yum install
This, but with
Emacs,
the
Vim, and Git. Yum is right there.
Yeah.
In those two words. And those are the 3 programs we're going to be using. Emacs is a text editor, Vim is a text editor, and Git is a version control software.
You probably have some subset of those already installed from previous weeks. So like Eli mentioned, we're going to discuss text editor, what it does, and Git more. This is a comic from XKCD. It's kind of fun because there's this concept of what's called the what you see is what you get editor. And so there's a couple of plays on that he added.
So you might think that you should edit your program files, like programming files like Python files or HTML files in Word, but you should not do that because Word and editors like it add a lot of, I guess the word's like cruft. It's basically stuff that you don't see when you're editing, but it exists. For instance, one person at the open source web decided to just randomly write some HTML in Word, and he went to edit the file just with Vim, and it opened up a file that did not look like what you wrote at all. It had a bunch of extra information, metadata that you don't want. And metadata is just information the computer knows, but you're not supposed to see. So go for it. So no, never ever use LibreOffice or Word to edit your code. Also, those include autocorrect, which is your worst nightmare because Word doesn't think that like LS is a word or LF. Yeah, just like there's a lot of words in programming languages that are not human, not English words. They're all human words, whatever. They're not English words, so autocorrect will like underline them with a little red line, but you don't want that to happen. So what you should use text editors. They are available and you can use them in the command line. For instance, if you launch Vim, you just say Vim, you type that into your command prompt in your Vagrant box, and then it'll just launch the text editor without opening an extra new window. What's up?
Are there text editors which are not all in the terminal and command line?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, actually, there are alternatives for most command line text editors that have a GUI. Like Vim has a graphical interface version, and Emacs has a graphical interface version.
Also, gedit and
Yes, those two. Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead, Emily.
So if it has a graphical interface, it's not really strictly a text editor as much. I was gonna say Eclipse has a lot of different modes. It's very good if you're working with Java, doing Android development.
That's Eclipse.
And that sort of thing. But these are not strictly text editors. The reason that you want a text editor as opposed to something graphical is if you're working on a remote machine and you just need to edit the file in place, you're not necessarily going to have a graphical environment installed on that server, and you're not necessarily going to have all of your graphical stuff forwarded.
Right, exactly.
It's a really good idea to get to know one of the two most common editors and then learn others from there if you want to.
Yeah, if you learn Vim, you will have a text editor available on pretty much every Linux box you ever work on. Because which is Vim is Vim approved. Vi is included on pretty much every distribution of Linux. So and you're working on a very stripped down version of Linux, you know that you can always edit a file in Vi. So it's really good to just have that knowledge. So you don't need to think like, how do I edit this file? Everything's breaking. That's always terrifying.
Yep. So one of the main differences between just a text editor and an integrated development environment is that the development environment includes a lot of other tools that are sometimes very nice, but are not necessary or actually even all that useful for our use cases. We'll talk about some of those later. Mostly they include debuggers, which are very useful, but we don't need them right now. So the features of the editors we like should obviously be installed on your system. Should be able to create files, edit, move around files, and should be able to easily automate tedious tasks because there will be a lot of those, and learning how to automate them is a really useful skill.
Okay, cool. So I guess this is
Another XKCD comic.
another XKCD comic about Vim, about text editors, and this is essentially a spectrum of elitism. Basically, it says nano, real programmers use Emacs, and then it goes like, no, real programmers use Vim, and then it ends pretty obscurely with someone waving their hand, and then an electron gets moved on a hard drive.
And Emacs has a command for that. Emacs has a command for everything. That's the joke. It does. So Emacs was written by Richard Stallman. We mentioned him before. He founded GNU and the FSF. Yes, Emily?
Stallman is speaking in Portland on Friday. If
Yep.
you want to go up there, he's giving a talk at Portland State.
He's interesting. Yes.
So Emac is like Vim.
No, they're very different.
Same thing in very different ways.
Exactly.
They put the same capsule of I need different words in this file,
Yep.
but they have totally different paradigms.
In just a minute, we're going to dive into Vim, and then we're going to dive into Emacs, and you'll see the differences.
Yep. Cool. So yeah, Vim is, like we said, a lot like Emacs in that it edits text. That's about as far as the similarities go. The way that you edit text in Vim, you have two modes. You have the edit mode and the command mode. How far into it do we go?
You start there.
Okay, yeah. So basically, there's an edit mode and a command mode. You can automate tasks with commands, and you can edit text with the edit mode.
So how to choose. It's nice to have people around that know them. I know Emacs. I'm probably the only one who will be speaking that knows Emacs.
Yep.
Everyone else uses Vim. But I'd recommend trying both and picking the one you like. Some people really, really hate the other one. And it's always good to know why you like that one.
Yep.
So
My reason for using Vim is because it's the first one I learned, and I liked it.
I used to use Vim up until last year, and then I switched to Emacs because it turns out I like Emacs. So Vim modes. Talking about a moment ago.
Yeah, so basically, when you open up Vim, you're going to be in edit mode, which basically means that you can run commands.
When you open Vim, you're going to be in command mode, we call it.
Command
Yep.
mode.
And then you have to tell it when you want to
So-
insert text by going in insert mode.
Here, oh, so he's not installed. One moment. I'll demonstrate Vim for you guys. Emacs is installed. Okay, back to the slides for now.
Yeah, so there's this is a kind of cool diagram. Basically, you go, hold up, figure out what's next.
You start in command mode.
You start in command mode, and then you press a series of letters,
Press
like
any one.
any one of
any
them.
one of those letters, sorry. Either I or A or capital A or whatever. There's a bunch of letters you can press to go into insert mode, and you can insert text like hello world. And then you press escape to leave insert mode. And then you press colon to go into command mode. And then you can enter a series of any commands that you want. Like you can open a new file, you can write, you can save the file you're editing, you can quit Vim. You can do some cool stuff like sort a list of, you can sort every line in your file, something like that, just something crazy.
Yep. So this is Vim. Right now it's in command mode. As soon as I hit I, which stands for insert, I can start typing stuff. You can see it says insert on the bottom. Stuff. And if I hit escape, I'm back in command mode. If I just start mashing on the keyboard, I went back into enter. See, it's doing crazy stuff. That's because I'm still in command mode. That's something you have to get used to in Vim.
And Jordan went through that really fast, but often
Yes.
if something goes wrong, it will tell you, it will give you a suggestion. It was
Yep.
like, you just tried to quit, but you want to save changes. Did you need you want Q exclamation point for really quick?
Yep.
So read what it tells you, it's less scary.
So this is just a nice little Vim graphical cheat sheet that is your typical keyboard layout and shows you all the different commands that different letters can do in their different modes.
If you can't read this, it will be available on the slides, and I'm pretty sure that's just an embedded image.
It's a link.
You can click the image and it gets big.
Yeah,
Yep.
so you can just click the image and it becomes readable, and then you can use that
Yep.
to figure out what all the hotkeys do. And,
Sorry. If it looks scary, the Emacs one's much scarier.
oh, yeah. Never mind.
So we just listed out some of the kind of the useful commands. When you're in command mode and you want to move the cursor around, H, J, K, L all in a row are your default kind of.
Yeah, they're the way that you move around. So in Vim, you can't use the arrow keys, but H, J, K, and L, read these, are a way to move your cursor up and down, left and right on your screen. And why it's like that, it's a little faster than using your arrow keys.
So right now I'm hitting K to go back up, and then I hit undo, sorry. So J to go down, I'll put the text there. Go H to go left, L to go right.
And then you press 0 to go to the beginning of a line. So that's really useful if you have a really long line, that's a really long command, you want to start at the beginning.
So
So
0,
you go to the beginning,
$sign goes to the end.
dollar sign goes to the end, that's very useful. W moves forward one word, which is really useful if you're writing code. You just want to like, you don't want to go to the end, but you want to like jump really far. And then B to move back one word. G goes to the end of the file, capital G goes to the end of the file, and then lowercase gg goes to the top of the file. And then dot, move to left edit.
So what dot actually does is it repeats the last command. So if you did a move command, it will repeat that move command again, yes only.
So the way that I usually use move to the beginning of the file is :0 because colon line number enter takes you to that line number.
Yes.
This is great for your compiler when you got an error on like 163.
Yeah, that's a really good point. If your compiler complains to you, it will tell you what line there's a problem at. And the way that you go to the line that tells you is you open up the file in Vim, you press colon, and then the line number, and that'll just take you right to the line number.
And then enter.
And then enter.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're fine.
Cool. And then the way that you customize your Vim, Vim is very customizable. You have plugins and change the color scheme. You edit everything in your .vimrc for permanent changes. Well, permanent changes include changes to your vimrc again, or colon set will change things just in the session that you're in.
So here I'm typing colon set, it's appearing on the bottom, and number, which will make line numbers show up.
And then
Now,
the way that you print your line numbers, if you want it, is set no new or no number.
Yep. Let me just figure it out.
Cool. And then there's some examples.
Yep.
This is a really funny comic. These are the learning curves for various text editors. Notepad, pretty basic. Pico, you can benefit a little bit. Visual Studio, you go up and then you just lose it. Vi, you just have to start at the top, and then Emacs. That's why I don't use Emacs. And then yeah, there's this really cool thing called regular expressions in Vim. This command replaces, does find and replace. So you know in like Word that you say find, replace.
So if
you go that command that says like find this word, replace it with this word. Well, the command colon %s slash Eli slash Jordan slash G finds Eli in the entire document and replaces it with Jordan. So if there are a million instances of the word Eli, it would replace each one with Jordan. Very useful.
we'll talk a lot more about regular expressions later. They're very, very complex, and we'll get into those at another time, but it's useful to know they exist. So Emacs, instead of having modes like Vim does, it uses what it calls meta characters. Here, C stands for control, the capital C, and M stands for meta, which is the same as alt on most keyboards. So like in Vim, you had HJKL to move around. In Emacs, you have Control F, Control B, Control N, and Control P.
Also, if you want to follow along, you definitely should. Just let you know.
Yeah.
We won't be mad if you're looking at your keyboard.
Yeah. We have some exercises that will, like, we don't expect you to remember all of these or any of these at all.
Yep.
We're just talking about them. So then meta F and meta B will move forward and backwards words. Control A and Control E end in beginning of line. Most of Emacs's commands that move you around will involve control. There's a couple that involve meta. Generally, meta does more powerful things than control. One thing that Emacs has that is, Vim also has something similar, but it's different. Emacs has a concept of what's called a buffer. You can think of a buffer like a tab on a browser, where each tab or each buffer is its own file. And Emacs also has some special buffers. They begin and end with stars. There's some commands down there that allow you to work with buffers. I'm not really going to go through those because it's a long list and it's not that useful to talk about. But if you need them for reference, they're all there. Emacs does have a concept of modes, but it's not like Vim modes. Emacs modes, every buffer gets a major mode, exactly one, and 0 or more minor modes. And the modes, instead of changing how you're editing the file, in Emacs, modes change how Emacs works with the file. So for example, most programming languages have a major mode in Emacs, and they provide syntax highlighting and other useful features to work with the different files. So that's syntax highlighting. They also do auto-compiling and linting. We'll talk about that later. There's a shell. Yeah?
Does Vim have syntax highlighting?
Yep.
Yes. Yes, it does.
That's something that you would set in your VimRC. You would say set syntax on.
Yep.
And that just turns syntax highlighting on. And for most common languages, it's just you open the file and it's already highlighted.
Yep. Emacs has a shell mode, which will give you its own shell. There's something called org mode, which is really cool. People use it for organization and reminders and to-dos and things like that. Fundamental is the mode you get if you don't have any other mode. And there's also Lisp interaction. Lisp is a programming language, and it's what Emacs is written in. It's really awesome, but it's kind of a strange and ancient language. It's work across, you'd want across multiple different kinds of buffers and major modes. So there's line mode, which does line numbers, just like set number on Vim. There's whitespace mode, which highlights white spaces at the end. It tells you if your lines are too long, some other useful things. There's some fun Emacs magic commands there. I don't really want to go into those because they're a bit complex, but if you're bored and you actually decide you like Emacs, you can take a look at the slide and try those out. They're pretty fun. That's the Emacs cheat sheet. That's like the official one by the Emacs developers. It's terrifying to look at.
There will be a test on it.
So Emacs configuration is kind of similar to Vim's, but it's actually written in a programming language called Lisp, or Emacs Lisp in this case. MetaX is what you can use. It's similar to Vim's colon, which will allow you to change things while you're editing something. There's also .emacs or init.el file, which will allow you to do configuration every time you open Emacs with stick. There's lots of Emacs resources. You hit Control-HR in Emacs. It will open up the entire Emacs manual. It's several hundred pages, and you can go through it. It's pretty cool. It's not really worth reading the whole thing. They have their own wiki, and it has a tutorial built in. You can use Control-H to T. It's actually a really, really useful tutorial. I recommend it if you decide you like Emacs. It'll teach you a lot of the basics. So here we have kind of a really simple comparison of what the editors look like. We have another exercise, but feel free to follow along with this one. You want to run through the Vim side? No.
Yeah, so basically what you're going to do is you're going to say Vim and then the file you want to open. So you're basically going to say Vim text, test.vim.txt, and then you're going to press I, which, as you know, puts you in insert mode.
So I go, Vim. We can try. Yep. Yep. Oh, of course. Hieroglyph is being funky. We'll have to go the other direction.
And the mention of Emacs tutorial reminds me there's a program called Vim Tutor that you can invoke, just Vim Tutor all one word, or you can install it from your Package Manager if you don't have it installed already, and it will walk you through the basics.
Yep.
So yeah, you're going to open up test.vim.txt, and it'll tell you this is a new file, which is useful if you aren't sure if you already created the file. And then you're going to press I to go into insert mode, type in hello world. And then you press escape to leave insert mode.
You can see on the bottom, I'm hitting escape right now. Insert mode disappears.
And then you're going to do that find and replace command, and that is :s/. And then you're going to do brackets for AEIOU, and then //G, and that will replace every vowel AEIOU. We don't care about Y with nothing. Yeah. Yep. So you're all edgy now. And then you press enter. You already did that.
Yep.
And then you press :WQ, which writes and quits the file, or writes the file and quits Vim, which is how you basically save and leave. There you go.
There you go.
Cool. And now the Emacs side.
So Emacs side. NW stands for no window. By default, Emacs will open up its own window. It has the GUI and it's really useful for some things, but I did NW because I don't want it to open up its own window in this case. Okay, so Emacs, I don't have to worry about insert mode. So I just type hello world like normal. And then I type Alt-X, and you can see down here, it's really hard to see, but it says M-X, which is meta. Meta and alt are the same thing in this case. And I type replace -regexp, stands for regular expression, and hit enter. And it says, it's really hard to see, it says replace regexp. So I type bracket AEIOU, and I hit enter, and it says replace it with, and
it says replace regexp AEIOU with.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a little more intuitive than this.
And I want to replace it with nothing, so I'm just going to hit enter. And look, it did nothing this time. That's because Emacs is really special, and it will only replace things from where your cursor is down. So I had to do MX again, and instead of typing it all out, I just pasted it back in. And you can't see it right now, but it says replace regex defaults, and it defaults to the last thing I just ran. So I'm going to hit enter again. That works. It's a slight difference between Emacs and Vim there. And then I'm going to hit Control X and Control S. And you can see it says root/home/localsl/file name.
And that's like bin:\w file.
And then Control X, Control C, quits.
Cool.
That was those two very, very quickly. So now if you go to github.com/DevOps/bootcamp-exercises. I'll pull that up just in a second. I believe you guys used this repository last week, right, Lucy? Yep. There's a folder called editors. And in there, you'll see one file called data. That's just it's the file you're going to open with the editor. And then there's Emacs and Vim. I recommend doing both if you have time to do both, or do one now and do one later. But yeah, go ahead and try out those exercises and feel free to ask us questions. Yeah, sure. And then I'll open up the URL and display it larger.
This is basically just a set of instructions for like walking through using Emacs.
Yep. Yep.
Are there any questions? Concerns? Yeah.
Yeah. So, yes.
Yeah, that's great. So, all of the things.
So that's the URL. Hopefully everyone can read that. If not, come ask me and I'll help you get to it. Feel free to grab a candy bar too. I hope to leave with none of them.
Perfect. And then if you go down to this repository, so if you go down to number 4, so this is kind of the not slides version. If you want the slides, you can go to slides over there. The slides don't always go themselves. And then go down to lesson number 4. And then you just walk you through basically script is and then just so script language, so you can modify how you interpret writing on the so like, because you don't have that binary. So basically, you just go actually okay, very but yeah, different computers than like the virtually together. So these are the two focus ones, but and then yeah, and if you get the data, do anything it's also pretty vague. So alright, so it's
interpreted.
So this says here basically like bash is what you do in your code. And especially since you're on Mac, that will be the case.
Okay, so, you know, so,
So who wants to ask install? And then so if you I want GPT.
And then, probably gonna have to the idea is that
You wouldn't
you
use
might
it
have a version that works.
if you were
But
running
you're
a
like,
bigger.
oh, but yeah, and then you change it, you know, and you're like, man, I wish we could go back.
If you use
To get
Synaptic package
fixed,
everything you can do with Synaptic, you
so
can
then
pass it or get it to
great.
it.
You can just go back to what it was. It's also not great for sharing. So if you're like, oh, man, I really if you're free to do your projects, you can also have people help you. So it's really and just to keep all of the small.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm even thinking about looking at that.
Oh, yeah.
So,
You used to think there's
we're gonna have to.
Vim is simpler than you actually think.
You know how to use it?
Yeah, so.
I'm sorry, I don't realize that. Stop me.
So, that is.
Yes.
And then, like I said, today's.
We'll just start there.
So
And,
So I'm not
somewhere
sure. So did I go to the exercise?
Yeah, so did you open that in another browser? Yes.
No,
Okay.
so, still,
okay, so.
It'll take
so then, once this is done, do I install?
So if you go to the, you go to that URL.
Okay, so
I've got that.
okay. So you're really installing, what I was mentioning. This one was from last week. And then this is
Yes.
this other what we're doing right now. So you want to, and then,
And then.
Download them up.
I do Vim, but that's really like that's what it's doing.
You can start writing that first command that you get, because that will pull it in your file.
Yeah, so I'll let you do that, and then I show you also this will start.
Okay, so,
Well, I don't have.
Okay.
this is a problem I've never seen.
I like it. So we're gonna see
My first impression would be,
are you in like hopefully?
So if you go under, this.
Very cool.
also, did you think about fish? Or
Unless I can
not?
think about our top speakers. I think that's it. So is this down?
Do you like it really fast?
Remember your current cooking games of regular files that come up with technical problems.
It's also like star, but it's from Mercedes. All this stuff that we did.
In the journal, yeah.
Okay.
No, no, no.
Oh, okay.
Or when I was
It's like, it's about 30 seconds. And I like interested like a sorority or something, so like.
Okay, connect.
Oh, no, no,
Thanks, interrupting your
Oh, and the head on the same. That was really cool. Well, no, that's your Windows machine.
Visitors going.
Well, we might be them. It's probably a good idea to try. So we break up to use maps. I guess. Well, I already know. Okay, so I guess this is.
How do you, put,
Yeah.
how do you turn on?
You don't need to hold your X. You can just say control X.
By
and
the
R.
vehicle mode.
Yeah.
How do I enter mode by default when you exit?
Oh, and then when I turn it over.
Okay, good. I have to put like documents
So then,
or see.
Can.
So the.
And then dot.
Yeah, you can do that parentheses, so that say star.
You should be able to open the
Yeah.
I feel like double clicking it should work.
Alright, so if we go.
Do you have any documents on Windows? Making this work on Windows. We started to think about trying to do it. I think we should just say trust.
Just need to try this out with this firewall.
Alright, so hit the
Is the previous command.
And then hit line.
Press space.
So we want to do,
It's literally just, that's just.
And then
So you basically just like, yeah,
have to watch the slides from last week.
okay, so see how these.
Somewhere there.
So, yeah, so recently what happened, just to
Yeah, I didn't even know that.
So when you they cancel it, sorry,
No, definitely, and so it will actually, even if you it won't delete it.
Use WCAT.
So instead of holding RM, I have to.
Well, so what it's doing is you can either force remove it and then it won't ask you, or if you just do regular RM and say, are you sure you want to remove this? My inclination is just to say leave that because it'll take time where you'll do RM, something you actually care about, and you'll be like,
Yeah, or leave.
and if it asks you first.
Should we just say?
Okay, well,
So that's fine, that's all the time. But if you just really don't want to have it, you can leave it over your board. Like, say,
So there's like a course that's stating,
I want to
Problem now, like, you only need to or the top, or replace it hard, or anything beyond.
I don't know what you do with your, data message on Windows, like, and I think.
It works in some special.
Okay,
that's worse.
People grab for people who have like really
Yep.
I think this is better than once again. It's really good, it's the thing. Oh, yeah, what is the log again? They are in Baker. Yes, they're Baker.
Yay! Woo!
So,
Yeah, so that.
so it's connected, so I'm just waiting to.
So yeah, like 2/3 of everything is as a developer makes it net.
What should we reconvene? That's a great question. Probably 8, maybe like 5 to 4. It's 7:45 now.
That would be good. And your own like knowledge of how to iterate for an hour is very, very useful. save you many, many hours.
I'm sorry, so the N, like, the one. Oh, and then, yes, that's, so we should get that set up. There you go. Guys, get back to us. There you go. Sorry, so N is still right.
Hey, okay, I think it's really important. It might help out a little bit. We'll take a minute.
Yeah, you can do escape instead of that. So the way that works is if you're not at the file, save and then over, it'll just take you back to the beginning of the file. Yeah, all that does is move the cursor to the end. See how the cursor is on the very bottom line now? And then escape and shift left bracket. And to get top of that now. That's all it is. Yeah. Yes, most kids will show up there. That one does not. And in general, anything that moves the cursor, if you're not showing anything, you're very low. But let's go.
I think okay. So I've done that, but.
So, looks like you didn't quite do the first part. That's some of it. So, save the water. Sorry, I hit it. So, again. Now you're visual up down there. So, now we can hit J a couple of times. Cursor down. C. And keep going. So
I was trying to refer. Okay.
No, so that's the way DMX works is, that's a really interesting program in the argument. There's a lot of argument classes in your platform. So as you see a file right there.
I don't know how you ever that happens here.
Because they're.
You should go there.
You accidentally ran another command that's. So what's it?
Might be if you can.
It's kind of next here. So now you can Control B and apply.
Okay.
And then
Alright,
hit J, go down to the bottom. You can just hold down J. Yep. And now you hit L to go right. And keep going right. Nope, too far. It's all 10. So now you should go left.
Okay.
Yep. And then, so here, because you deleted the T and C off of those lines, now it's shifted, so the rectangle is not quite right. So we hit C.
Okay.
We'll leave it on mode. We can hit U and U. So now the T and the C are back on those two lines. Yeah, Control B. J,
I can do it.
J all the way down.
All right.
And you can use the arrow keys, but it's better to learn the letters for it. And then hit X. X is delete. And
Okay, so
so
the model of your
And that's up to step 4. So now for step 5, if you type colon, and then percent sign, and then S stands lowercase s. Slash 10.1 dot. And slash again. Everything between the first 2 slashes, will be replaced with everything between the second 2 slashes. So mine is just an arbitrary.
Okay, great.
And then that replaces everything
Look at that.
on the first row. Perfect. And that puts you on to step 6.
Any questions, concerns?
I like the way you put highlight the rectangle like this.
Yeah, it's pretty nifty.
Emacs are
That
good.
would be really useful. That would be
Yeah.
nice.
They highlight things that
So, how do
All
I
right.
undo or go back?
So,
Because I misspelled.
so just set money on options. You didn't actually do anything, but so you can just get
That will hopefully
Kind of
Yep, hopefully not long.
now you find numbers.
Yeah.
On the left side.
Yeah, exactly.
And for example, if you try to hit the H to go back, you'll notice you can't actually go into the line numbers. They're not actually part of the text.
Right.
So as it's it works nicely.
It's like, you know, if you want it, I think it's
Okay, so you might have seen this before.
So,
Oh, so
yeah.
do you get,
Sure.
Some of
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, like,
So,
down.
okay.
All right, so.
Step 7 is
You
where
are
it's- Just have to make sure.
All right.
Oh.
We're good.
Sorry, again, this sounded like a fire alarm.
This one really tests you on your backslash.
Yeah.
So you get curl.
Right.
Exactly.
Yep.
It's the device. So then reboot and fix your browser. So reboot down all the updates. Yeah, it's like,
So you see what's right down. Those are spaces. When you go to backspace for anything, every space comes to the end of a line that's after.
So on the root screen, I'll probably say down
Because
F
those
some
those
number
spaces are
on
typically
device.
used
And
as
put it in the
That's so you see like line 3
So,
there.
it said there was like a pump, so we wouldn't say files. And we realized that this pump is sometimes used by localization on. So we're not really.
No, nothing special.
Not like.
Actually,
What did the error say?
there were no errors.
Okay, then the first thing we're going to do.
When I was looking up online, it looks
And
like
we're
that's.
going to give us the error, and then we're going to read the error. Then we're going to copy and paste the text of the error and do it, see what happens.
That's not gonna work.
I mean,
Instructions are slightly off.
For that one.
Yeah, are you getting stuck on that extra white space?
Yeah, that's because extra white space is an arbitrary name, but it has to be defined as a highlight group first.
it's not really out of sync.
How do I do that? I'm going to take extract in the dark and say that probably, I'm going to set the white space.
So we're actually saying-
Oh, we're figuring that out.
Go to Google Docs.
Let me go see if better markers.
This is kind of a red marker, sort of. This will sort of do.
Here it is. No, with the white space.
So we learned how to enable the arbitrary character with a regular expression. set X slash the thing we're matching slash the thing we're replacing.
That was actually
And then a final
really
slash.
easy.
So if X or Y space matches something,
It's
then
like
the
it's in here
it would
somewhere.
go S slash X or Y space slash nothing slash G for closure. And Mike maybe in here.
Max. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
That's an interesting opinion poll, and, do you want just,
Actually,
if you want to have.
So in order to make that command, that match command work, go away, could you? You'll need to type
from command colon highlight and then
every time. And then the rest of that line.
So it's not match, it's highlight.
You have to type the highlight one first and then do match. I forgot to include the highlight line.
Wait, so what's
Oh, I see.
that? Okay, so.
So highlight tells it how to highlight the characters, and match tells it to actually do the highlight. So highlight, we say basically the background should be yellow and the border and the if you're in the terminal, the background should be yellow, otherwise it should be red. And then extra white space is just an arbitrary name. And then when you do match extra white space, that says use this configuration. So I just forgot to include that line.
All right, you're welcome. Capitals necessary?
Yes. Well, no, but you have to be consistent.
How do I save it?
So,
How do I save it?
In Emacs, Control X, Control S.
if you do what?
Save the file.
Probably doesn't think it's state view, maybe it's random.
And if you finish with the exercise with Emacs, if you hit Control H and then T, it will open up a tutorial. It'll go over some kind of similar things. But
You can't just use the power again instead of talking about groups. So set X means throughout the whole file, substitute, and the slash means here's the first thing and then substitute. Carrot doesn't match a single character, just match a started line, and then space, and then star, and then slash, and then another slash meaning we're going to substitute beginning of line and any number of spaces with nothing. So that will just remove all the spaces from the beginning of lines, and then fix the end line stuff. You're going to substitute space star $sign for any number of spaces, end of line for nothing. I don't know. It probably makes more sense to do it the way the instructions actually said.
yeah, if you follow the steps, the first right next up there.
Now we need to connect to the virtual machine somehow, because the virtual machine started up, right? You started it up. So you basically just the cursor. So highlight it. And you're probably looking at the stage, right? Okay, I was just.
Slow it down.
Yeah, okay. Now you connect in the virtual machine, which is run by me, right?
Yeah.
And so.
Well, the same combination, the person was typing the
It says, anyways, remember you have.
So, do you actually not save the keystrokes?
in some cases, yes.
Awesome. So now we want to do.
When I want to do anything complex.
Or debug.
How do you
So, probably
So you
in
can-
GitHub.
If I wanted to recompile an RSC file, it is somewhat not straightforward because I
And-
use virtual items.
Okay.
So I use in the right virtual item.
Okay.
And next like in Emacs, I can just
Start with
like
probably
where
not
I
do
just
that.
compile it, pass it to compile it, save it, and help compile it, and then every time they recompile it, just
Nice.
then
I think that makes sense, that if you build, the way that I would do that with Git would be building the virtualized checks into the make class. You make slides, and it's just shell out to make slides,
Yes.
and then bang make slides.
So anyways, your commands for
Sure.
are
So you might just hold that config stuff.
where the paper
That's pretty
file is. Bigger, make it just.
I find when you're trying to do simple things, it's easier, or it does things this is like your next. You try to do something complex,
Interesting.
part of that comes from language.
I mean, it's script is made of pain and you don't want to write extensions. I hear for the people who are being foolish enough to try to write extensions. Yeah. I don't know. Do you miss the composability of everything in there? Did you really get particularly far into doing that kind of thing? Okay. Yeah. But that's a total main arguments that I hear cited for like.
It's pretty
Mm-hmm. Really, it's just the overhead learning like by any switch to a marginally more efficient keyboard that I like.
That's my favorite part of the is you change keyboard.
Oh, geez, yeah. I've never switched. I've looked at the different layout, being like you get the nastiest situations with your login prompts, and like maybe your password's in Quirky and maybe your password's in Dvorak, and so what you need to do is you need to take the one password, hashes to the same thing when they type in Quirky, Dvorak, home match. Well, no, you just
I hope that it's not salted.
you generate.
I know
You
it's
generate
all
a handful of
lowercase, but
passwords, so half the thing, you just use really
Okay,
each
so if you hit colon
and then you pick
and
one
then hit
If
up
it's not
arrow
working, you should never do it.
and then hit it again. Aha,
You're not like
there's a
the
small
way you
typo.
like, I can't compare.
Oh my God. Okay.
Those small typos are the worst.
Okay.
Yeah. So then, can I hit the down there?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. If I hit enter,
Like, I know
Yep.
that in certain versions of them,
That's because it is holding the last one. So
that's
you
okay.
hit colon again,
Uh-huh.
oh, no.
You have
Yeah.
to highlight.
and then you hit up,
Highlight.
and then you hit it one more time. Now hit enter. There you go, it's highlighted.
Hey, give me a system to administer that. I'm
Yeah.
ready.
Root access.
Oh. Okay.
Is it highlight, so like that, or is it highlight HILIGH?
I think Vim allows you to do both, but I've done it that way.
So how do I remove that white space
So if you go up to the white space and then go to the first space in it.
Okay.
One more, yep. And then hit Shift C, capital C. Capital C will delete to the end of the line, and it also puts you in insert mode. So in this case, you just want to hit escape again to be colon. And then you get for all the others.
All right.
Maybe you want to highlight, and then you want to highlight.
Not working for me.
Let's try one.
How's everyone doing? Good? Okay. Imagine, yeah. Question?
It's not, so your Vim probably doesn't have that capability, so, just,
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, okay. You have to install Emacs. Sorry, it's sudo yum install. There's a typo on my slides. Yeah. Or you can just, you can just
You have, Vim version, and you type that ground right,
Yes.
you have plus K right.
What is the
Right down.
capital?
So you type young space info,
You have plus K and you right.
and then package name.
Okay, so
After that, I'll show you once this is done installing.
Yeah.
It will provide some information about the package and try to tell you that it's already.
I was wondering
That's better.
if it was something which was compiled in event, but maybe not.
So once that finishes.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know.
Actually, it wasn't.
Ask Jordan. Hey, Jordan. Emacs question. I don't know the answer.
I tried to do it's supposed to be all, right? I don't know.
Yes.
Some remote server, and I don't know.
You'll keep lots of slides. But he was right in that. Yeah, all of that. So, I ended up with three of those on sex and sex. It's out, right?
So,
So the problem is that the,
don't have to be a wizard.
basically the terminal you're running and then switching over Bakery, doesn't carry your keystrokes over correctly. So instead of holding alt, you can just
And
hit
now
escape.
I'm going.
Escape. Yep.
That go
Yep.
to.
And just see probably the next step.
We are.
Hit Control G. That's it. Control G will cancel out
How do I do that?
You just hit. You should
I
have
don't know,
to
my
get back to
clock
this.
is off. My clock is 8 past 7.
It's not working.
If we're gonna be switching this.
So you can do Control D. No, that's forward delete.
Now. Yeah.
Yeah, we should do it just
Whoa, whoa. This is not what I want.
No, not quite. So, there was an issue with 7. 7, yes. There's one command you have to run before it that I forgot to add, and the other is the whole tab.
Which one?
Yeah, that one. That highlight command, you have to run that first. And I will add that to the exercises after. We need to learn to go to some good stuff. Do that like more time to talk.
What can I say? I like hearing my voice.
Okay, so I know everyone is probably maybe not even done the first
Spoilers.
exercise, but that's okay. You can go over it later. You can always ask us more questions afterwards. But we're going to start talking about Git again. We talked about it at Git Camp. Who all remembers anything about Git? A little bit? Yeah? Okay. We're going to go over it all again, so don't worry.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, Git. You got the next slide.
Nope.
Git is used for version control, and version control essentially means if you use Git correctly, you will never accidentally delete your CSM work. That's how I use it.
It's much more difficult to, at least.
Yes, it is. And this is a fun XKCD comic. You should read it later. This is a perfect example of why you use Git. I'm sure we've all done this where we have like final.doc and then final revision 2, and then you go through all these revisions, and then it turns into this crazy naming scheme at the end where it's just like final. I think this is it. Totally not going to do this again. .doc. Git allows you to just have one file, final.doc, or in your case, program.py or assignment2.c. And it allows you to, using Git, save versions of that file. And you can go through time and change and look at the revisions that have happened and keep track of revisions going forward. And you do that with commits. And Jordan's gone. I have no idea what to do.
Is it topic within the Jordan?
Cool. So what you do is you essentially make a change to the file. And then once you are happy with that change, or you feel like you've done something sufficiently new, you make a commit. Can you keep going? I'm pretty sure it's talking about this. Yeah, so a commit, which is essentially a snapshot of a part of your project. Essentially, it's a snapshot of the state of your project. Yes, we'll try. So, like I said, say you are editing a function name in a C file, and you change it from printing hello world to print everything is awesome. Git will keep track of that, and it'll say, like, you changed this one line in this one file, and here's the change, and then it'll, like, accompany that change with a commit message, like, changed it to be everything is awesome. Git specifically is different from other version control softwares like SVN and CBS, where those are centralized, where basically everything is around a certain server. You push changes to a server, you pull changes from the server. Git is decentralized. You don't necessarily need a server, although with GitHub, we'll actually treat it sort of like a centralized version control. But you can version control a file or a series of files on your home computer without the need for a server. So today we're going to look at Git. We're not going to look at SVN or CBS, although if you would like, you can read the wiki pages and investigate those too.
And HG stands for Mercury, or is the symbol for Mercurial, which is another one, if you're interested.
So the decentralized banking capture Git used in open source. But Git is the biggest one in open source.
Mercury on Git had a battle for who was going to be the most popular Mercury ones.
So to answer the question you're all probably asking yourselves, what is Git? Why is it called Git? It was created by Linus Torvald, who also wrote the Linux kernel, or as the head of the Linux kernel at the very least. And it's called Git because he named it after himself. Essentially, it just means like it's the dumb version control software.
He readily acknowledges that it's kind of different. So.
I actually think a lot. So using Git locally, if you're in your Baker box, create a new directory, like a new folder, and that's you do that by saying make dir and then the name of the folder, and then go inside it and run git in there.
Yes, Emily.
Haven't we already used Git? Like, I know we've typed some commands that have Git in them.
Yes, you did.
This is a refresher.
This is a refresher. We'll get it. The command that we probably ran was git clone. And git clone essentially says, I want to copy a Git repo from somewhere and bring it here. So it will take basically it'll take a folder from somewhere else and bring it into your computer, and that's an entire Git repo. That's what they're called. They're called repos or repositories. So using Git locally, you're going to go into your Git directory, your project directory, and you're going to run git init, and that basically turns your directory into a Git repository. And the way it does that is through some fancy magic. And then there will be magically a new folder in that directory called .git. Don't delete that, otherwise the whole purpose of everything is gone. And then when you create a file that you want to track, you say git add and then the file name. So program.c++, you would say git add program.c++, and that would add program.c++ to your project. And then when you start editing it and you make it some sufficient change, you would say git commit -m, and then I did a thing. And that just basically means git commit, and then you say the message, and then you have like the message in quotes. And that makes a commit, and that's so you keep track of changes.
So we went over this at day camp. If you try and make a commit and it yells at you for not having your name or email set, you'll want to look at this slide or come talk to us and we'll help you. Or Google it. Yeah, lots of other people on the internet have good answers for it, which are all mostly the same thing. Here's this really scary picture. Git can be this scary. It can also be a lot simpler. But we're going to work through that in a little bit with a more practical example with GitHub.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yeah, so everyone, who here does not have a GitHub account? So everyone has a GitHub account. Okay, cool. So everyone can GitHub. Today we're going to manage permissions on a repository. We're going to back up our work on GitHub. We're going to investigate the social aspects of GitHub because it is a social coding website. And then you should go here to read some amazing documentation. So yeah, this is basically just a rundown of what we're going to do. Let's just get started. So first, we're going to generate some SSH keys. If you don't do this, you have to log into GitHub essentially every time you clone a repo. or make a push, which is super annoying. So I wrote this up really quick. What you should do is go into your terminal and go into the .ssh folder in your home directory. Does that not make sense to anybody? We'll do a live demo of it.
So, looking down. So what am I doing?
SSH-T.
I'm just literally running that.
Literally.
Cool. -T RSA is the type of algorithm that's used for the SSH key. RSA is really cool. We can talk more about it later. -B is bits. It's the number of bits used for the key size. -C is just a comment.
So really quick, SSH keys are, I think I already said this, but they're basically to avoid having to log in. It's sort of a way your computer sends a key over to GitHub, and GitHub says, yes, you are the person you say you are. Here's some stuff. So by generating an SSH key, we're making our lives a lot easier in the future, so we don't need to log in and enter our username and password every time we push.
A quick explanation of how the keys work. They come in key pairs. So you have a private key, which you have to keep private, and you have a public key, which you give to everyone else. So Eli gives me his public key, and then if he wants to prove that he is who he says he is, I have his public key, and he encrypts the message with his private key, and then sends it to me, and I can decrypt that message using his public key.
Really cool.
I have no idea what his private key is, and I can't figure it out easily. It takes billions, trillions of years of computational time.
Don't give away your private key.
Yeah, as long as you don't give away your private key. So as long as I trust that Eli does not lose his private key or give it to someone, then I know whenever I get a message that's encrypted with his private key, which I can find out using his public key to decrypt it, he is who he says he is. That way he doesn't have to remember a long, complex password to type it in.
Yeah. And the way the reason the system works is because you can't encrypt a message with a public key, right?
You can, but it is not the same.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not the same as encrypting with my private key. So he can decrypt, but he can't encrypt and act like he's me.
If I encrypt a message with the public key, only the private key can decrypt it.
Right.
The same public key cannot decrypt it again. Well, it can, but then you know it's the public key. You know it's not the private key.
Anyway, moving on. So
we're running this command and saying it's generating key pair. The public private is what we were talking about. And ask me the file which to save. You can just select the default by hitting enter, which is what's in parentheses. Passphrase, it's always a good idea to use a passphrase. I'm not going to do one because it's a demonstration. And it's done generating.
And it shows you this really cool, well, I mean, whatever, it's not the same thing. It shows you this really cool picture, and that just sort of tells you it works.
Yep. So now if I ls the .ssh in my home dir, so home dir /.ssh. Yep, the tilde. And IDRSA and IDRSA.pub are the key pairs.
Yep.
.pub is your public one, the other one's your private one.
Cool. So moving on.
Has everyone run that command? You can run it now. Now's a good time to run it.
Yep.
This is the interactive portion.
Yep. Hey, what's up?
Okay, so I have that.
So you just press enter. And then enter a password if you want. It won't show you. And then again, just make sure you actually know everything. So that works. So now run the ls tilde /.ssh. Run that stuff.
Oh, I should,
You should just use your email, yeah.
Is it up there?
Can you go back to
Yep.
Oh, thanks.
on my desktop, I have one for this computer, one for my work computer, one for my other work computer, one for my school computer. It's okay to have lots
Is
of.
anyone else confused or is anyone else need help? Or just want to find out?
Oh, you send the other one?
So I think I only work.
Oh, you mean a space between the S and the tilde. So we get it up, we'll go back, two bar down, yep. Left a couple times. Oh, looks like you brought up your initial. So, I got
Oh, yeah. I don't know why I can't, I don't have that power side.
So just, if you just say that, keep it. And then it was.
Got the space. Yep, enter. And it's there.
Yeah.
ID underscore RSA, that's your private key.
Okay.
ID underscore RSA.pub is your public key. And known hosts is a special file that when you use SSH to connect to another machine, they will write down the machine's public key. And then when you try and SSH to again, they will throw one if they don't match. The reason it does that is because if they don't match, it means the machine was rebuilt or generated these keys, which means someone could be trying to intercept your message to this other server. And if you just trust that their public key is what it is, then you don't know you're talking to the same server you were before.
Yeah.
When are you going to get paid?
Huh?
Which are you going to get paid?
It looks like you've got.
Go to the DevOps Bootcamp
And
GitHub.
let's
And
see
then-
what the IDRSA.pub.
32-bit now.
Okay.
So,
That's what the pump is. If you're having an error, that's up.
You need to improve the whole pack. That's SSH stuff.
So we're going through error, I think it's like.
And so you can see that this is the, that's kind of like.
So that's why you do this, that.
yes, we do need it.
And so we go to GitHub.
So,
I go to this big apart.
yeah, so go to github.com.
And you go to here.
It looks like a bunch of-
Sure, sure, send us.
So it looks like.
I was going to make one, then no one ever brought up the date.
You have the, it's called FinCap, I think this is the same. You want to create one. Temporary key. And I'll put it in your contract.
Yeah, so it's just prompting you where you want to store the file. And now you type in the passphrase. It's just a password.
And then it creates like a visual representation. It's actually looking for how to make it.
Again.
I don't know if you're interested in that, but if you are. But, and we cap like 15.
It will start with SSH.RSA and it will end.
And that's the, package.
And we're gonna include, yes,
And so it's there, it's your 49.
Yeah, so other key types that are files under it, you can just hit enter to accept the default.
And
It's got your associations. And so you can just run them.
so yes,
You already have.
Just hit enter. Yep, just hit enter.
Oh, wait.
Everything in files.
Yeah, So if you do
Activate. Yeah, no problem.
yeah, and we're moving over. Start as a wildcard for you.
Yeah,
You're good.
yeah, I'm good.
You want the virtual machine?
Yes, you make it so that if you run ls
The
space
virtual machine
tilde,
is like a big computer, right? So it doesn't have access to.
tilde is shift.
That's why you said
Yep,
push and
slash
it doesn't work.
/.
Are you
Dot
it's
SSH.
okay. If you
Yep.
write your title.
There you go. So IDRSA and IDRSA.pub is the keyword. The one that ends in .pub is the public key. The one that ends with RSA.
Excellent. And then you add it to GitHub wall.
So,
You remember how to add it to GitHub.
Go over I just
forward
You-
step.
you- you need these knowledge about what password is. Okay, hide it. As long as it was.
Bigger than you are.
Just get along.
Specifically to copy.
Yeah, so, if you highlight a line,
Perfect. That's good.
and then, yep, and go, you don't have to hit anything, actually, just go to whatever you want to paste it to. And then, you hit either,
It's already started here.
okay, you hit Control C before you do that. And then it's either a middle click, or if you don't have a mouse button, which you don't, you hit full mouse button, and then go here.
Just run it.
There it is.
Yeah.
And so,
They are not.
well,
So is anyone else having trouble generating an SSH key? Ready to move on? Okay, cool.
So once you have your SSH key set up, what you're going to want to do is sign into GitHub, and then you're going to want to go to this URL, github.com/settings/SSH. You can navigate to that through the GitHub menu, but that's just a really quick way to get to the page on which you add SSH keys. And once you're there, you're going to want to click Add SSH Key, and then you're going to go into your terminal, and you're going to run cat, and then this command, which is basically it's going to print out your public SSH key to your screen, and then you're going to copy that with your mouse and paste it into the key field on GitHub. I swear this is what they tell you to do. And you can give it a title, and then you click the Add Key button. And if you didn't catch that, we have GitHub has great documentation on adding keys. What's that?
So I just put my key name that didn't have a .pub, and then I put that on GitHub. What should I do?
Remove that immediately. There's a remove button.
So
No, so I put like one without the .pub, and I put it on like pasted and shared it with my friends. What should I do with that key?
you should delete the file and delete the associated pub key, and then remake it by running the command again.
SSH keys are pretty cheap, so
And that's actually a good, if you ever put a password on GitHub, the only way really to make sure that nobody finds it is to just change the password.
Yep.
Like, it's really hard to rewrite history on GitHub.
cool.
Keep that in mind.
So
You should do this.
how are we coming along on this?
so, title just means password.
It's just an arbitrary name.
Don't put the password itself. It's
Right.
okay
Yeah.
to put into yourself as to what you might have used, as long as that hint won't make sense to other people.
Is anyone that able to get on GitHub? What's up?
That's space.
Yes.
Oh, there's no space. Yeah, so the way this works is the way that works is the command and a argument. And he's going to got this cat business stuff, and the argument is file. Okay? So yeah, there has to be a space between them, or else it doesn't happen.
And scroll down.
Okay. Is that working?
CentOS, yep, I use this. This would input 7.
Oh, the questions are down.
Okay. Highlight doing with this. Yes, so everything after that last
cat space tilde space computer.
But those people add the comment. And then go to GitHub. Yep, and then you go into the key, you just hit, oh, sorry. Control T. So the reason it does that is because in Linux, X11 has this special way of doing copy and pasting where you can do Control C and Control V to copy and paste, or you can just hide it somewhere in that middle click. So close. Yeah, that's what you do in Linux. So PuTTY was written by people who are in Linux. So they automatically just Control C for you.
So I selected this, now how do I paste?
So that way you know how to use the copy button. So but that'll only be in PuTTY when you're in Windows. Only PuTTY does that.
So Control C doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Control Shift.
Okay, so,
The third one, now you go there.
I think I got it.
The third one is in the terminal. Yes.
Oh,
Yep.
So
So then you highlight it,
is how you
copy it.
copy in a terminal.
no. You gotta do that. Okay,
And then Command C. Yep. Command V.
That file ID.
When you made the key, did you give it a different name?
A different name.
Yeah. So it prompts you for the file name. We'll take a look.
Want me to?
Oh, we can name key for a specific file.
Yeah. Eli's,
You name it.
You got it.
how many sysadmins does it
So
take?
you're gonna, you give it a name. You give it a name,
Problem?
right, so that's the.
Yeah, so
and
it says confirm password.
password.
I had an earlier password, so did I try this password that I'm using?
Yeah.
No, that's your
That's
GitHub.
still your GitHub password. That's not the password on your key.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the key password you use in your terminal,
So-
get the password you use in GitHub. Yeah.
Anytime you use the key and it prompts you for a password, you have to enter your key password. And it's just GitHub, so you get the password.
Here. Okay. So. Oh, you need a key. So. Oh, wait, okay, that. Yeah. You need a key up. So, okay, if you were to run that and just use that, then you have nothing here. Over two, but you're supposed to keep your SSD guys. Okay. Oh, what was that? I knew that. Sorry about it, guys.
No, actually, that was just the transport.
So, go to the, you can run the folder.
Yeah, we should probably keep going.
So we're gonna keep going. If you need help on this, we will help you after we're done. But we're just gonna keep moving on just so we can cover the material. So yeah, there are some problems that occasionally occur. You should just run these sometimes, the top command. Sometimes you'll try to push, and I didn't give enough context, but you'll try to push to GitHub, which is basically just syncing up. Like, you have your commits and you're telling GitHub, like, take these commits. And it'll say, like, did not find an SSHD or something like that. That's when you're going to run exec SSH agent bash.
You actually want a val, not exec. We'll fix the slide.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Eval SSH agent bash. And then you're going to add your SSH key, which is, can you explain it a little more?
Yeah, okay.
So basically, the command, the first command should be eval instead of exec. We'll fix that. It starts the SSH agent and sets some variables in your shell. And the second command adds it to the SSH agent, which is a program that's running in the background, and adds your key. That way, you don't have to type in your password to your key every single time.
SSH agent will handle it for you. And when you stop the SSH agent or you shut down the computer or log out, it will stop running, and then you'll have to enter the password again the next time. So you don't strictly have to do this, but if you see this error, you'll want to run what's up there.
Yeah.
So
if it says permission denied, just run those commands, and it should take 95% of the occurrences.
Yep. But we don't need to do that right now. We're not going to worry about that right now. So this is the hands-on part. You have your, you can do it on your laptop, right? So we have a repository called students. And in it, there's a README, which doesn't tell you too much. It's a practice repository. There's a folder called students, again. And you can see there's jordanevans.md and lucy.txt. What does Lucy have? Lucy has some information about her. So what we're going to have you all do is you're going to fork the repository. And don't worry, I'm just giving you an overview. Eli's going to run through and show you everything. You're going to fork the repository, add your own file in a branch, and push it. And then you're going to open a pull request to add it to our copy of the repository. And we're going to review it and merge it. And we may not get to the review and merge part tonight, but hopefully we will.
Yep.
You ready? So Eli does not have a file right now.
Nope, I haven't even cloned this. I'm completely unprepared. Or am I? Oh, let's like this. Oh, I know some freaking
You might have to close and start layering again. Sometimes it gets grumpy. I was making that up. I'm using it.
Okay, sorry, just getting set up really quick. Let's do that. Live.
Yay! Cool.
So this is that page that we were talking about. I'm going to, this is the students page. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go over to a terminal. That's huh? Oh, right.
So GitHub has this concept called forking, which is not directly a Git concept. What forking does is when you see someone has this really, really cool repository and you want your own copy of the repository because you can't write to theirs, but you want to add commits and push them to GitHub, so you have them. You can fork the repository and it will just make a copy under your account. So Eli clicks the fork button, which was at the top right.
Sorry.
And then it popped up this little thing. You can see it has multiple organizations, which you don't need to worry about. And now you can see at the top, it says Elijah King /students and fork from DevOps Bootcamp /students.
Yep.
So now he has his own magical copy of the repository, which he has write access to.
Yep.
So then, kind of the middle right side, there's the clone URL. He's copying that, and then he's going to go into a terminal and run git clone, and then give it that URL. Yep.
Cool.
And now he has a directory called students with capital S. Yep. And you can see it's exactly the same as we saw through GitHub Web UI. There's a README, doesn't really tell you too much. And you can see the students, you can see there's my file and Lucy's file. And Eli kind of already knows what he's doing, so he's going to make his own. And write some interesting.
Yeah, sure. Like that? Is that good?
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's good.
Now we can actually see you using them.
You guys using Vim? Should I use Emacs?
Usually it's called.
Emacs. For some definitions, it's better. That's true.
Okay.
So now he's done. So he wrote quit. He did W2, write quit. Now there's an eli.txt file. So here in Git status, you can see the status of the repository. Eli.txt is untracked, which means Git has no idea about this file at all. He can use git add to add the file, and it will become tracked. Now if you're in Git status again, it says changes to be committed, new file.
That means they're not committed yet.
They're not committed yet. They are just in the staging area, which means if you run git commit, you should run git commit without dash add.
Okay.
It opens up the editor. He has his editor set to Vim, so it automatically opens up Vim. And he's going to write a commit message. And then he right clicks again, and it makes a commit for him. Now he's commit. And there's nothing around because he just committed everything, so there's no changes.
What's that end thing? It's like, am I in the future?
So, head in Git means the current, it means the current commit that you are
I
on.
mean, you're ready to head origin master. Like,
Oh,
am
yes.
I,
Sorry.
did you
So-
travel back in time?
Yes. So origin/master is the remote copy of the branch that Eli is on. If he were to check out origin/master, he would see the master branch as GitHub currently sees it, or as he thinks GitHub sees it. So it's ahead by one commit because he just made one commit. He's on his local copy of master. There's the origin copy of master, which is GitHub's. And as soon as he runs git push origin master, he will no longer be ahead by one commit. They'll now be the same.
Magic.
Your branch is up to date with origin/master because he pushed.
Cool. So now if we go to my fork of this repo and I press refresh, if my mouse works, we see.
Now you can see.
Whoop, sorry. My mouse is
Now you
breaking
can
out.
see his commit. That'd be like because he's great. Right, Elijah?
Hey. Okay. Cool.
So now this is in his copy of the repository, but it's not in the DevOps Bootcamp copy of the repository. And Eli wants it to be in the DevOps Bootcamp copy so that it's all in one centralized copy. So you can see it has this branch is one commit ahead of DevOps Bootcamp :master. That is the repository he forked from, and it's also on the master branch. And over here is a button that says pull request. It's a little hard to see because it's kind of gray. But he is going to click that pull request button.
Wait, where is it?
Right there.
Okay. Cool. Full disclosure, my mouse is freaking out.
I would strongly recommend going to the DevOps Bootcamp student site, and then the pull request button will be made free.
That's true.
Under Elijah K's students, it'll say DevOps Bootcamp students. And so if that becomes applicable, if the mouse becomes applicable.
Can I borrow someone's mouse?
I borrowed your mouse really quick. Please, sorry about this.
I'll bet you if you hit the tab key a lot, you can navigate.
I could. I'm just gonna see if this
This
works.
browser that has text navigation. Emacs
Maybe
has one.
it's been pretty-
Why don't we all just use e-links like in the book?
So I actually used elinks this week. Elinks is a text-based browser.
Where's the
that runs
big green
on
button?
So
So
now you're on DevOps Bootcamp student, and
Yeah.
it should, if you work from there correctly, tell you that you put recently put branch.
Oh.
that's only if you push the branch to it.
Okay.
No, if you push branch to your other, I don't.
Say what, we're just gonna do this pull request
We're
thing.
gonna do it this way. So he clicks on the original pull request button that I gave him, and he scrolls up.
Right.
He wants to click the
Big
create.
green one.
Yep. Big create pull request button.
And this tells me the changes, like the difference between my version, my fork, and the main fork, and the main version.
The repository.
The repository, yeah.
Yeah, so he's gonna click that, and he gets the title at the top. It defaults to one of your commit messages that you're adding. and he can leave a comment. Usually you want to add as much information as necessary into the comment. You don't want to add too much because it's a waste of time to type all of that. But yeah, that's going to be nice. So he's going to click the create pull request button again because GitHub has a weird UI and he's clicked it twice.
Cool.
So now
you won't see this button because you probably don't have permission to merge pull requests, but you can do that. Want to do that?
So, no, not yet.
Okay.
So this is just the pull request interface. This is the comment that he added, and if we click on the commits button up there, it shows all of the commits that Eli wants to merge. There's only one. If you click on files changed, it really nicely shows you this is actually green, but you can't really tell. The vector washes it out. And these pluses say these adding lines. If you remove lines from another file, they would be in red with a minus instead of a plus.
Yep.
But GitHub has this nice little UI for actually seeing what changed. When you open a pull request with like 7 or 8 commits, looking through the commits themselves can get kind of messy. But this files change tab will actually pull all of your commits together and show the sum total change between the place you fork from that you're trying to send your pull request to and your changes. So Eli is going to go back to conversation where he can merge the pull request. And because he is the benevolent dictator, he's going to merge the pull request.
Oh. No one said I was a competent dictator.
So when you click the button, it says it allows you to change the. When you make a merge is a commit. So this allows him to change the message of the merge commit. GitHub defaults to, if you have just a one commit merge, it defaults to the commit message. Otherwise, it will default to talking about merging branch. You can usually just confirm merge.
Yep.
And now it's merged.
Hey.
So he's going to go back to the repository and look at the code.
And
so now you notice at the top he's at DevOps Bootcamp/students, not Eli. Or Eli Kane/students.
Yep.
He's going to click on students. Nope, no students.
The student?
Nope.
Oh, the student.
That was students, the folder.
Okay.
And his file's there.
Hey.
Hooray.
Cool. And you'll also notice on the main page, the most recent commit is the commit that I just made 42 seconds ago.
Yep. It says merge pull request number 4. He opened the 4th pull request. It says from Elijah Kane, which is his user's fork that he made.
Yep. Cool. You want to switch over to your laptop?
Yeah, we can switch that. So I know that was quite a bit to go through. So I added a handy file to the repository, some instructions, and some pictures. We're good? Okay. So if I refresh the page, hey, look, Eli's there. We'll click on jordanevans.markdown. This is what I added. Here's a really old picture of me. And I added some instructions on making your own file. So you click the fork button, like we showed. Then you clone the repository. I just gave the URL. In this case, the user's DevOps Bootcamp, but it's going to be your username instead of DevOps Bootcamp there. And then it goes through the rest of the instructions that Eli followed. Yeah, it's a lot. Feel free to ask any and all questions. I also included some instructions if you want to include pictures, like I did. You can make a markdown file instead of a .text file. But yeah, have fun. You can use the editor you tried last time if you liked it. If you didn't, you can use the other one.
Cool. So everyone should go to this page and follow the instructions, and we'll go until 9. Which is in
So. I'll get you guys the URL in a nicer format here in a second.
GitHub.
We tell them to use a VM.
No, I
If
don't
you
have
use VMs, yeah.
Yes, she was looking for that. No. Let's install.
Yeah.
Oh, they choose that?
Yeah.
It's really good.
No, but it's almost good. It's a good idea.
Or you can just
Right.
do the except
Now that what happens is that the person who must get they're all somehow alias to a command which launches the installer and says, we want to install this, obviously.
Yeah, so you can
It just takes over the time.
Oh, okay. So, you need to, okay. So, you do, yep, and you do sudo, sudo, space yum, y-u-m. Install all the public problems where. Yep. And then it will run the version. Yep. Just like that. And it'll prompt you to just hit Y. Just tell it.
Should not be nothing that totally rules it, and to my personal opinion.
So it's running that. And then you go into there. So once this finishes, you can go to start for the new which session over what
I mean, if you want to write it, I'm cool.
now there's a big one.
Because there's
So go press on platform. Should be able to run the data. And then once that happens, go into VirtualBox and hopefully you
done that.
to just start executing.
I did that.
And I'm doing a ton, but I should see
What I did.
so we should
Yeah, so I think.
Okay.
So then get.
I think that would be correct. So this is, there's a PDF form actually,
Oh, so, British, I'm sorry. So, British, is, each commit references all the way back to top. When,
So like the basic.
for example, well, one word is closed, you don't so, yeah, just like branch, which then shifts to that untouched say, every time you file name, it's just branch around. So, for example, if you were we save that all once. And then we make feature branch, and go into the feature branch. So fixes to it. Not even like, so you go back and you but everyone can still access the just branch where you save. Yeah, you can save this. I wrote it in here. Yes. So that is a way of writing files. You can see it.
I really thought they would everyone for something in that class. You can just do one lesson. And just have this code save and it's like, and then you call space, and then you call next lecture. And so then you do a function which is
To do a title in Markdown, you align with whatever the title text is, and you all equal. And then you can do so basically, you just text it.
I had like
There was investigator of retail store for several decades, and then third transition in CS, has been in CS and then there's a white kid who got out of high school, went to state school, and is in half of her people is the diversity of the team. Guess which one?
So it says,
Yeah, because you have the that's just
so now,
stuff. That is a messed up situation, and we need to
yes, I
appreciate
want to get push
there
forward.
are no societal conditions.
Yeah, I think that's so instead of the get push origin master, it's get push origin right.
Yeah, so once you just,
Oh.
Like why there's no critical side of it, but why it's funny.
That's not good.
oh, this is a really, have you ever, okay.
I just started learning.
That's cool. This is true in C as well, and it's a variety of
actually,
There's a difference in the program between checking quality and assignment.
Yeah.
So when you assign a variable of value, you use a single equal sign. Because you do it all the time. And you check whether it's two variables or a constant variable or whatever have the same value. You use single equal sign. Does that make sense?
Yeah, a lot. Maybe a lot. Evaluating, yes.
So if you want to check, and it's like a true or false check, if it's within an if statement, you want to use if you're assigning a variable, and you want to assign.
One of my favorite projects.
When you're writing,
And I'll be like, oh, wow. I've never recommended that to a friend.
so
And then
check on the difference.
one of my friends, don't even know
If you want to go down like, this is a really interesting. You always does this thing called type coordinate, you know what this types are, right? So do you know what the difference between a float and this is a juror and a string? Okay. I won't go into too much detail, but JavaScript has this way to automatically turns one type into another type, called type conversion. So if you compare a string to a float, and try and turn the string into a float, sometimes it's already and so JavaScript only has a
And then next is the coding of the release, which is the use case. And after that is what they call the component name, which is basically just arbitrary separation. So most times they on the job, but Ubuntu, for example, also uses universe, which is things that Ubuntu packages to or Ubuntu. They have different community packages. So basically just separate groups of packages. So why is there two? So when unable to text, except make sure you make packages. What I did was I pulled in the right file using wget. You can see here the SS components are C, non-main. So we should change main to RC component. So sudo list, if you change main to RC, and it should work.
So, you want me to do that?
You can do it. Okay. It's your box.
Let's see.
All right.
So one handy trick in Vim is if you type capital A, it will take you to the end of the line, and you can get it so then you can check backspace. RC. Yep. That's it. And then you can escape. And then colon and WQ. And I will right click. Right click. So you hit enter, and it saves the file, and it closes it. So now if you run sudo apt-get update again, and everyone
Look at that.
see how this goes.
I know what you're talking about. You're an awesome teacher. Thank you.
Well, see, it don't work. It works. Cool. Yeah, so now you should have packages from that repository.
So, you have to find
Yeah. You can also find it through the command line if you want.
yeah.
So do you know the package name off the top of your head? Okay. Well, that makes it a little more difficult.
Yeah.
So if you type apt, and then instead of dash get, it's going to be dash cache, C-A-C-H-E. So dash C-A-C-H-E space search.
You always want to put it
Space use. And then so there's no packages that have the name Fuse in them.
Oh, okay, so branching could be pretty much anything you like. So it's, instead of doing like the little alligator things, so basically just means like a variable, like right something else here. So I would just name it after yourself.
We tried to search it for
But don't make it branching. Yeah. And then you don't, so the $sign just says like, this is a bash prompt, like whatever you type, but you don't need the bash sign or the $sign for space, dash B.
Okay, so
And then.
I think we can afford to do
I
that.
have. Can we hear next week?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so you can do like Umar,
Okay.
Homans, and nope. Yep. So what you're doing is you're making a branch on GitHub. So you're saying like, I want to copy this code to over here.
Branch?
At doing branches. There's something with your name on it that has branching.
Yeah, I originally wrote branching, but I didn't know you like to do branching. So.
I did too.
You can do branching or you can do branch.
Okay.
It doesn't actually matter.
But yeah, that's I was explaining.
Sorry.
Oh, that's the story. They're kind of similar.
No, one of these works out.
Last call for candy. You have another candy bar?
And so,
More candy for
No.
and so you properly, so
Which one is your
let's,
favorite?
Here, you say,
I'm not gonna say
that's fine. But then you're thinking, you say,
I'm actually not that bad at
and,
I won't think on it, you know, tell me
No.
where.
alright, like,
Which one?
it's
What do you tell me after I tell you?
I'll
I'll tell you which one my favorite is.
sorry, what were you saying?
Okay, I was pretty sure it's fixed like on the bottom.
How's your brain?
No, I had like 30
Yeah.
That's actually probably really
so,
server.
but what happens is you're trying to,
They're gonna be deals on.
Yeah, but I'd rather something else.
and now you have a fork. And, now you want to. Okay, now you want to clone.
There's like a sorority meeting in there.
Oh, no, I know what to do, but I don't know, like, someone, like, all their stuff, on the stuff that originally already had checked out, so the proper answer is to add their own fork into your.
Okay, so
There, so then I need to find what your code is.
So
Yeah.
it's gonna be litter free.
Okay,
Like now we've done.
so remember there's
Your other name.
two versions of the repository, like the main version and the
Main
right?
VR, that working state.
And, these are called two different remotes, because they're remote repositories, right? And so one of them is called origin. And so if you do git remote dash v, it'll show you your remotes. Dash v, dash. Not v.
And then.
You see that you have your remote. So you want to add another remote,
So now you're on there.
right? Which is your git remote add.
Yeah, sorry.
Maybe that's because I don't know, last time was like.
And then now you give your name.
So it,
And
like,
then
you
you are
actually set it up so that you like,
And
code
so,
profiles, you click on
you might give it your name,
PNGR or whatever.
and then the URL with your.
And then,